Hi everyone. So Victoria and I just had a very interesting experience. By the way, this is Professor Skulas-Ray. We're going to try to mix up the format and have some of these videos to uh, talk about different topics in the course and questions that come up in the discussion post. So thank you for your thoughtful comments there. But Victoria and I just had a really interesting experience that we wanted to reflect on with you because it relates to our class topics. So yesterday I got an email last night actually that K-Gun wanted to do an interview with somebody in nutrition about fad diets. And I thought, okay, well, we talk about this quite a bit in the class, so I'm probably suited to do this. And I need more practice talking to non-scientists because it's really tricky. So I said yes. And poor Victoria wandered into my office to ask questions about your discussion post. So she got dragged into it and was very much a part of the process. So just to let you get a background on the questions that we were posed, because I always insist on getting questions in advance because it's hard to be on the spot. And I told them I'm only good for sarcastic one-liners and odd analogies if I'm put on the spot. So they gave me the questions, and of course, um, they're a little uncomfortable. So I don't have them printed them out, but they were basically they were
One of them was about how much water you should drink, or if you should
yeah.
drink water according to the guidelines.
So yeah, so basically the prompt was every year around this time there's a lot of fad diets. People are on diets trying to lose weight for the new year, and are these diets safe? Is it safe to lose weight quickly, or is it better to lose it slowly? Which is sort of a I guess superficial question, right? Because everyone knows really that crash diets don't work and yo-yo dieting is not so great. But so we're trying to play along with these questions, and they included is the cabbage soup diet safe? Does apple cider vinegar 3 tablespoons a day cause weight loss, and is that safe and have health benefits? It was fairly restricted because I was expecting honestly Whole30, keto,
Paleo. Intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting would have been a good one, right? But this weren't my question prompts. But luckily, I had a little bit of time to talk with Victoria about the questions and think about what I wanted to say, and to also talk to some of our grad students and my lab manager, my clinical research coordinator, about the topics. Yeah, and the last one was, and what about water? So the theme was weight loss, and yeah. So and thinking about the things that we're discussing, the questions that we ended up sort of answering. I looked to Victoria off camera a lot because I wanted to make sure that I was, well, for one, being coherent. Because it's really, really difficult to answer really broad questions like this and to stay on track. And also because Victoria is a registered dietitian. She's actually worked in a clinical setting to help people figure out what they should be eating for health concerns. And I'm only in the academic realm and very abstract about it and sort of thinking, about the research and the evidence base. So what we ended up saying was mainly that one thing is being able to recognize what is a fad diet, because I think that people still struggle with this. There's a cycle, a historical cycle about this is just eat this one food, you'll lose weight. So we were talking about grapefruit as one example. That was the thing for a while, just eat grapefruits and nothing else. Um, and the problem with that is people lose weight. Of course, you restrict your diet, and so we could have a chocolate diet. I think that's going to be my claim to fame. It's eat nothing but chocolate, because eventually you'll get tired of eating chocolate and you won't eat that much and you will lose weight because calorie deficit equals weight loss. Most people can get away with a lot of things short term without any long term health consequences. I'm sure I've already said in another video, I did a water fast for 8 days once because I was curious about what it felt like and what it would do. Um, but yeah, with all these bad diets, people regain the weight. So what do we tell people instead? And that's where it gets really tricky. Mm-hmm. What do you emphasize? And so we've been doing evidence-based dietary recommendations in the course. And so we know that emphasizing vegetables, nuts, legumes, seeds, fruits, plant-based sources of food, and minimizing carbohydrate that is of the refined nature, so sugar sweetened beverages, white flour. This is not counter to any nutritional evidence. This has been around for a while. There's pretty much consensus on this. but the other, but it has to have a clever name for it to be exciting and appealing. So we need a good name for this. This evidence-based nutrition. We just got to market it better. Um, but yeah, so we did make the point that keto. A lot of people say they're eating a ketogenic diet or a paleo diet. They like the name. They're not actually eating a ketogenic diet. So we do talk in this class about the ketogenic diet for epilepsy, which Victoria is very versed on.
I haven't done a lot with epilepsy, but yes.
The ketogenic diet in general. So I said 85% fat. I think that's what it is. I usually check it just to make sure. But there's variations, I think, that go to 75% fat. Most people who will tell you they're doing a ketogenic diet aren't even close to that mark. They're definitely not 85% because when you get to 85% fat, there's a lot more that goes into it, like we'll do in that sort of case study of epilepsy's big fat miracle. It's a full-time job for one of the parents to weigh out all the food because you're right on the edge of ketoacidosis. So the children are definitely in ketosis, but ketoacidosis is when there's actually a danger of the child going into a coma from having acidic blood. Is that the best way of explaining it?
Yeah, I guess so. But also usually it's about a 5% carbohydrate restriction, which is nearly impossible to. I think there were case studies with kids with epilepsy following this diet and using a lotion or something with carbohydrate in it could break ketosis. It was
or
that sensitive.
Toothpaste.
It was toothpaste. Yeah.
So if they accidentally swallow a little bit of toothpaste, they could go out of ketosis.
Yeah.
But if they have no carbohydrate, that's also going to be a problem because they are right on the edge. So it's weighing out all of the foods. It's a lot of work. And so people are saying they're on X diet. But really what they're doing in a lot of cases is just restricting certain foods. They're restricting high carbohydrate foods. There's nothing really wrong with that. If they're restricting, white flour, sugar, processed foods, it doesn't necessarily need a fancy name and a club that you join to be part of this diet. And I might sound a little bit jaded on this topic, but we just talked about it, and it's really challenging because a lot of what we do is trying to figure this out, and we want people to have a healthy relationship with food, and it's really an obstacle if it becomes more of a religious approach to the science. So what I mean by that is you're buying into a community of shared values with your nutrition. So you can be part of this community if you eat a certain way, and who decides what that certain way is very arbitrary, and that's
yeah. And I think one of the things that we've talked about too with the first discussion post was what's the meaning of wellness, and I think almost every single one of you said some sort of mental or spiritual or that whole wellness. It's not just about your body physique or how physically fit you are. It's about that mental aspect too, and we talked a lot about that in the interview about not crossing the line of going for fully physical wellness, but that healthy relationship with food as well.
Yeah, and there should be a mindful relationship with food. Victoria and I both agree, and the grad student consensus as well, because we've been talking about this all day, is that food should be enjoyed. We think it's funny that a lot of people find out what we do and assume that we have this extremely restrictive diet, that we've demonized certain foods. We will not touch them. They're not allowed in our house. They have not been blessed and they're not sacred. I don't know, whatever people think about our relationship with food. But we all agree that food is part of existence. It's an enjoyable experience to eat. And evidence-based healthy dietary patterns have even a social ritual attached to eating. So Mediterranean diet, you sit down as a group, you savor food slowly, you enjoy it, you talk with family, you laugh, you stop, you stop working, you take a break, you're not looking at your phone. But even the Mediterranean diet is a construct, the one that we study. It's not that everybody in the Mediterranean countries eats a certain pattern. And if we're talking about food as a path to longevity, the not 7 countries, but if we look at the different populations around the world that are very long-lived, they have very different dietary patterns. But they have more physical activity than Americans. They have different social constructs. Everything is different. It's really hard to tease out what's doing what. So there's no one right diet. We'll never figure out this perfect diet. And I can tell you it won't be about extreme deprivation or restriction because
we're human.
we're human. That was the other thing. So evidence-based, we're trying to lose weight. Make the right decision easy. So put the foods that you want to eat, have them available, have them out where you see them. Don't have the foods that you don't want to eat. It sounds really simple and straightforward, but seriously, if you have a bowl of Doritos on your counter, I'm going to eat those Doritos. I'll come to your house. But we don't have them. That's why we don't do that. We have strawberries cut up. They're washed. They're in the fridge. They're ready to go. And that helps me because everybody in my family is obese. I didn't grow up with good, healthy eating habits. I've had to sort of figure this out. But we have research on that, and that's what we do. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and we're trying to figure it out. But just people sort of these arbitrary restrictions. Gluten is bad, and I don't know if you guys have seen the was it Colbert or
Oh,
Jon Stewart?
Jon
Jon
Stewart.
Stewart,
No.
yeah, or somebody.
Oh my gosh.
Somebody asked people who avoid gluten why they do or what gluten is.
What gluten is, yeah.
And so that this is a good case study, and people just said it makes you fat. I don't know what it is. It makes you fat. It's protein in wheat. There's no research to suggest it makes people, like in and of itself, makes people overweight. It's a dietary pattern thing. And there's a research study too that a lot of people said they were gluten sensitive were not gluten sensitive when they ate it in a blinded manner. So they didn't know they were eating it. They had no ill effects. They couldn't tell it apart from the placebo. So this is why we do research, is try to figure these things out, because human physiology and health and well-being and cognitive function, and this is really complicated stuff. I mean, it's all interrelated. Mm-hmm. We're supporting human health and wellness, and I'm glad that, as Victoria said, that this is how you see health and wellness, and what you're interested in nutrition or you're interested in health professions, but I mean, nutrition is supporting physiological function. That's its role, and it's sensory. We all have to eat. We should enjoy it. But yeah, commenting on fad diets, it was interesting because then and I'm sure you've all experienced this. It always goes to personal stories of relationships with food, certain foods having a physiological impact, and you can never tell if that's real. So
it's the difficulty of working with human subjects and research experiments too. That's why we have so many different types of experiments, is you have to learn to tease out those human emotions, those human perceptions, and you can't cut a human open ethically in research, so that's why we have animal models and things like that. So with the ethics and the perception, you have to break it down into those different experimental models that we discussed.
There's a lot of unanswered questions, and we'll have a lot more to do. But yeah, the fad diets, and so thinking about maybe you guys will have a better take on this. Help me for the next time this comes up. But then, so what do we tell people? So I always like to start the class with what should we tell people to eat and why? And I never mean that to turn into it's hopeless, we shouldn't tell people anything. It's to open the dialogue of there's always going to be limitations, that we make our best attempt at explaining the state of science as it is, but more research is going to come out and will change what we think is the most precise thing we can tell people about what to eat. But in the meantime, I think the best I've come up with is arming people against misinformation, because the fad diet stuff it's been around so long, it's not going away. It's just probably going to get more clever, more manipulative, more compelling as people get better at the marketing side of things. So I don't know what 1 minute and 30 seconds they will take out of this rambling 30-minute discussion where I kept looking at Victoria and asking questions and trying to figure out how to answer the questions I wanted to, and not talk about cabbage soup and apple cider vinegar and water, because the water thing even turned into what's the right amount of water. The other question we got was, is there a percent exercise versus nutrition ratio that determines one's health and body composition? And I didn't know how to handle that.
What does that even mean?
I was really uncertain. I was processing it and trying to find an angle on it that I was gonna go with. I don't remember what I said. So we'll try to get this clip and post it for you. But I think I've said this in other videos. trying to take scientific information and communicate it to a lay audience is so challenging. I don't feel good at it. I'm going to keep trying and practicing, but I figured this was so related to our topics that Victoria and I should sort of have a this just happened video. It was sort of, the concepts that we're teaching in the real world. Yeah, media interview. So it should air on Monday morning. We'll see if I can get a copy of it and post it, and hopefully it's not completely embarrassing, but that just happened. Okay, we're going to address some of the questions on the discussion now, a separate video.